Stranded at a haunted bus station, a young woman realizes the last passenger isn't just a ghost from the shadows, he's someone she can't escape. I should have known better than to stay out late, but the night got away from me, and by the time I got to the bus station, my usual bus had already left. The station was deserted, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead like they were barely hanging on. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the occasional hum of the lights and the distant sound of passing cars. I wasn't alone, though. At the far end of the bench sat a man. His clothes were old, tattered, like he had been wearing them for years. He was slouched forward, hands on his knees, staring at me. His eyes, they never left me. I shifted uncomfortably, hugging my bag tighter, trying to avoid eye contact, but the weight of his gaze was impossible to ignore. There was something about him that made my skin crawl. I glanced at the schedule posted nearby. The next bus was supposed to arrive any minute. I told myself it was fine, I'd be home soon, and this whole thing would just be a weird, creepy memory. Finally, headlights appeared down the road. The bus pulled in with a soft screech, and I hurried on, not daring to look back at the man. The driver barely acknowledged me as I boarded, his face half hidden under a shadowed cap. I didn't care, though. I was just relieved to be away from that staring man. I settled into my seat, the cool vinyl sticking to my skin, and let out a deep breath. The bus pulled away, and as it did, I glanced out the window. There he was. The man was still sitting on that bench, staring at the bus as it drove off. I should have felt relief, but his unblinking eyes, locked onto mine through the window, sent a shiver down my spine. I tried to shake it off. I was just being paranoid. It was late, I was tired, and everything feels scarier when you're alone in the dark. The bus rumbled down the empty streets, and I began to relax, until the driver's voice broke the silence. "You're the only passenger tonight," he said, his voice rough like he hadn't spoken in hours. I froze. Slowly, I turned my head, confused. The bus had been empty when I got on, sure, but something about the way he said it, like he was reminding me, set off alarm bells. My eyes drifted to the rearview mirror above the driver's seat. There in the reflection, I saw him, the man sitting in the back row, grinning at me. No, it wasn't possible. I had seen him outside the bus. He hadn't gotten on. I was certain. My heart pounded in my chest as I forced myself to turn around, to look with my own eyes, to see if he was really there. The back row was empty. I stared at the empty seat, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Maybe I was just seeing things. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me after the weird encounter at the station. I turned back around, trying to calm myself. But there he was again, in the reflection. This time his grin was wider, his teeth too sharp, his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light of the bus. My stomach twisted with fear. I wanted to scream, to shout for the driver to stop the bus, but my voice wouldn't come. I glanced at the driver, hoping he'd notice something was wrong, but he just stared ahead, hands tight on the wheel, like nothing was out of the ordinary. I looked back at the mirror. The man's reflection was closer now, sitting a few rows behind me. He was moving, inching closer without making a sound. My pulse thundered in my ears as I whipped around, but again the seats behind me were empty. This can't be happening. This can't be happening. I turned back to the front, gripping the armrest until my knuckles turned white. The reflection in the mirror was gone. For a split second I allowed myself to believe it was over, that I'd imagined it all. But then I felt it, a cold breath on the back of my neck. I didn't want to look, but something made me. Slowly I turned my head and saw him, crouched in the aisle, just inches from my face. His grin was impossibly wide now, stretching beyond what was humanly possible, his teeth sharp, jagged. His eyes, those dead, soulless eyes, burned into mine. "Mind if I sit?" he rasped, his voice echoing like it came from everywhere and nowhere at once. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. All I could do was watch as his hand reached out toward me, those long, skeletal fingers curling toward my throat. And then the bus jerked to a stop. The doors hissed open, and suddenly the man was gone. The bus was empty again, just me and the driver. Trembling, I bolted for the door, stumbling off the bus into the cold night air. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I ran all the way home. The image of that man, no, that thing burned into my mind. But every time I pass the bus station now, I feel his eyes on me, waiting, grinning, and I know I wasn't the only passenger that night. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell icon. Thank you for watching.